The new factory original quarter panels are here. They do include this piece, which you rarely ever need. They've cut off the old one. They're going to replace that. They're going to go ahead and replace that inner pillar because it came with the quarter rather than try to drill it out. There's the new panels in the trunk, the new frame rail. The other side, they were able to clean and replace the outer sections of the frame rail, but not the entire frame rail. So he's getting this side prepped body-wise and everything to weld the new quarter panel on, but he's going to be also at that same time fitting and putting in the factory original outer for this side. And we'll get shots of that when it all gets fit together. As I mentioned, we're attempting to get new fenders, reproduction fenders, and we're trying to get a set of samples in that are recently available. One place is out of them, so we're trying to go direct. So we'll get some shots as soon as we have some information regarding that. So both fenders are here, both rear fenders. You see the other one right there. We were able to find some in Germany, and they just came in. So we'll get back after a while, and I am going to be swapping back to another camera. I just got to get it set up. Okay, back on Greg's 250. Earlier you saw how this section of the frame was pretty much obliterated. And we make it, so he went back till the metal got good, sawed it off. Now we make it just a little bit higher up in here someplace, but if we don't need to go up that high, then we don't do it. So we cut it off here. He's got this in place and across to here, flanged, and then that bumper mount will end up fitting across there, and that looks a whole lot better than the gaping holes that he had in that other section. This side here is not bad quite as far back, or you did that already too?
Yeah, that one's already done. It was just the very front was bad.
The front couple of inches, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Pretty solid.
Now we got a factory fender on, and he left the pillar in here, so he's replacing the pillar, which is fine. He's got the factory original outer wheelhouse nested in place. You still have to, you're going to drill through and plug weld it, and then seam seal it. Okay. I got to switch to that other camera. I think I have it on the charger charging up, so this thing here is there, that's better. So this thing comes and goes quality wise. I don't know what's going on with it. Anyway, the quarter is on. It did not line up properly with this when they made this factory quarter. What do you say, about 3/8 of an inch?
Yeah.
This area here came into here, so he had to take a slice out of it, move this back, and then weld it back. This will all be blended in, but to get it to fit, that's what he had to do. Now he's tacking, he's got a piece to repair on the inner right here, a couple tiny holes that just from spot welds being broken. He's got a patch to do on the inside, and he's fitting this, but this you pre-fit this when you did the tail panel inner reinforcements, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So you're not going to attach this until you get the other quarter hung.
No,
And
this from here to here is flat.
yeah.
It's got to be a little bulge in it. I
So
gotta
the factory,
jack in and
I'll be darned. So the factory made this a little flatter than it should have been. It should be contoured to shape the deck with the deck lid.
it's off a little bit.
The deck lid itself's not bowed.
This has actually got to come up a little bit
Yeah.
to meet it.
Well, you're going to be cutting this off anyway, so.
Yep.
But the deck lid shape isn't the issue. The issue is the quarter panel shape.
Right.
So you're going to bring a porta power in here and kind of
Yeah.
bow this. I saw you starting to work on it, but it's starting to buckle a little bit. So yeah, you got to dial it out. Well, even factory parts aren't perfect.
No.
So
And then I had to do the same as here. Slice it and take it out and draw that in. Get stuck out too far.
oh, the pillar was too long?
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
You know, even if I get a hold of Mercedes, show them these pictures and everything, they won't do a darn thing about it.
No.
And they won't compensate you for it either.
No.
No, we tried. Remember the fenders on the 190 SL, the rear quarters?
Yeah,
They were
you buy
three.
it.
Back on Greg's car. The quarter is tacked in place. The wheelhouse is in place. We have to make a piece for here. We got to make a section for there. You can see it's this curved area here. This one's also bad on the bottom. We got to make a small piece there. This one's welded in. Fits pretty good through here. Fits the door edge. They'll drill some small holes and they'll plug weld the wheelhouse, but this is all nice. Should be its factory original. He's got the outer piece clamped in. You should have that in there.
Right. No, I don't have to clamp
For
together.
spacing.
Because I can't clamp these together.
Oh.
This is just sitting in there, it's bolted.
Yeah. So we'll build a section for there, and then the trunk floor piece here will go out to that panel. And that doesn't get welded, that gets seam sealed. That is, this goes in here, has to get trimmed. That gets tipped up slightly in the back. This actually comes back here, but they got to trim out from around this. They got to trim around this notch around that area there, and then it'll set in here. And then this does not get welded to this panel, but it gets seam sealed so dust doesn't come flying up inside your trunk. But that'll go there. This one goes here, and that'll fill those areas. And then he's going to make a piece for here and make a piece for there. But it's coming along. I'm going to be out of town a couple of days. I wanted to get a shot of this so he can continue on. Some things we're going to show you on Greg's 250. Because we're going to be working on the front of the car here soon. This is one of the things that has to be fit into the grill when the grill gets exchanged. I'm sorry, the nose panel. Some small dings, but it's really punched right in here. This can be sent out for plating. But that takes months, and it's very thin and very difficult to get back to shape. Company in Taiwan has actually reproduced this. I've got samples that are going to be coming in soon. We'll see if we can do a test fit. The Grill Star . We were mechanically told the car was decent. We're going to kind of clean things up and paint things, but they said there was a small issue here. This is the pin that holds the center of the rear axle in location. They dropped it out. There ain't a bushing that even exists in there anymore.
No.
The rubber is obliterated and metal is toast.
Hopefully it'll come apart.
Good luck. It's going to be hard to press out. Although there's a metal ring in there on the outside, right? Should be able to take it across the street and use their press and take the bolts.
Press here.
Take the bolts loose.
You can't. That's not the issue. To do it, you almost have to push the.
It's like they never put a bushing in it.
You almost have to take the whole thing.
This is a new one.
The outer sleeve is it? The inner's not?
And this inner sleeve has no rubber around it any longer. So this is a new one that we stock.
Wow. Never seen one that bad.
So anyway, just wanted to get a shot of that. Yeah, that's the worst one I've seen. It's normal to have a little play when the rubber gets soft. We'll have to inspect the front suspension because... Huh?
Front subframe mounts are torn right out. The only thing holding the front end is shocks.
I would change the subframe mounts anyway after this many years. So the rubber mounts are toast in the front end too. But as far as kingpins and so on, we haven't inspected that this far yet, right? Well, yeah, but we're gonna look at them. This is one here that's going out soon. Gentleman in Colorado owns that. Oh, you did get the hubcaps on it. Good. I'll have to get pictures of that.
Yep, recording. Greg Engelman's car. Deck lid gaps are bad. Really big gap here. Starts to get really, 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 really tight. And then it opens up a little bit down at this end. There ain't enough room to grind it, to straighten it up. It's really bad. And it's all really flimsy. It twists really, really bad. But it's not straight at all. So we're gonna put a used deck lid on it that we got and see if that gets better. The used deck lid is better. It's got a straight lip on it. The lip is straight all the way across, plus see where the spot welds are. Got plenty of room that we can grind to straighten it up. The other one we can't. This is actually a really, really nice deck lid. I'll put the deck lid on it and then we'll film again to see how well it fits.
Here we're back out on Greg's car. This deck lid doesn't fit the body panels properly. This is a used deck lid that's on there now. This is supposed to be straight across. And you can see how much, if I can get a close up here. You can see how much gap there is here, and there's also gap on the other side. It gets a little more as we get out here when he tries to hold it flat. We have about 1/4 of an inch. That means this would have to be all ground down to level, and you'll be through the spot welds and the aluminum will come apart, and then it has to be Heliarc. But the other problem was when this is bolted on, it's flimsy, like it's been bent or skewed, and this side was low, right? Yeah. So the car's been hit, tweaked, you know, whatever in the back. The car had been hit in the back because it had patches all over the back, or they welded a new bottom of the tail panel on it one time. So we've got some of these in stock. This is off a 280, which isn't a big deal. It fits much better. He's going to have to do a little bit of sanding. These were all hand fit to the cars originally. When we put his on, it slams really tight here, and you can put the end of a pencil in on both sides. So this one has a gap all the way across. He's going to make sure it fits contour to the quarters, and he'll probably have to, you're sanding right in this corner here. Yeah. He's going to have to take a little bit of material out of here to fit it, but not all the way across like the other one. So we're going to have to put this used deck lid on here to make it fit the car. So he's shaping the quarters here to the deck lid and shaping the deck lid here to the body. We'll get some shots after he gets that further along. Greg's car, we mentioned previously, the deck lid did not fit. A lot of the grinding's been done here. Repair patches, pieces welded in place. They got the trunk floor extensions on both sides put in. Complete rear body panels, inner, outer, inner frame members, rear frame rails. All that's done. Deck lid has been fit. We were not able to use his deck lid. We would have ground through it. So we've got a used deck lid here that they're stripping. You can see all the, and the hood's being stripped. You can see all the paint and debris on the floor here. A couple layers of paint. Oh, he's still stripping the top here.
Yeah, it's really, really thick.
What do you think? 3, 4, 5?
Yeah.
It's hard to say because sometimes when they repaint these, they put multiple layers on. So
right.
Not much Bondo, or has it got a lot of Bondo in it?
Quite a bit in it. This is all mud there.
This is all this discoloration is Bondo, isn't it?
Yep.
Well, is it all across the top too, or?
No, the top don't look bad. It's just all around the edges.
Around the edges, a lot of Bondo. So this is, I don't want to get in this too much because if I touch stuff out in the other shop, it'll strip that too. But those are quite a bit of layers of paint. So he's going to take it down to the bare aluminum. Can you? Oh, you've already got this all gummed up. The other side of this is stripped as well.
Yes. There was only one spot with Bondo.
This was a good deck lid then.
It was a really nice deck lid.
I know it's nice and flat across the bottom there where we checked it with a straight edge. Do I have any deck lids left or nothing?
Yeah.
So I've got a deck lid, a used deck lid left. We have his that could be repaired, but the cost of repairing it would exceed putting a used deck lid on.
Well, remember his
His is twisted and the bottom is not flat. So it would take quite a bit of work to straighten that out. So as long as we have a decent used one for reasonable, we'll put this used one on there. You've actually got this one fit to the car and shaped the fenders and stuff to fit it properly. So we did find fenders, reproduction fenders. We're going to get those in here and see how they look and how they fit, so that we can both have a reproduction offering instead of originals, because they're considerably less money than factory original fenders. And if they're comparable in shape and quality, then we're good to go. So it's going to need inners. You can see, I'm sure we've shown this before. You can see that there are holes and patches and creases in this front end here that we had to cut away. And so we'll be tackling this as soon as these fenders come in. We're processing the shipment right now. He's got some other grinding underneath and a variety of things. It's so much fun to do.
The grinding underneath is done. The only thing that I got to grind,
Some on the inside here.
yeah, the passenger or the driver's side.
So we're coming along. We'll get some shots later when all the stripping is done and he can start metal finishing or doweling out anything. Obviously, if there's Bondo and spots, there might be a reinforcement underneath, and we'll have to try and get underneath there and pull the dent as much as possible to alleviate as much filler as possible. So we'll get some shots later. Okay, I tried to get some pictures yesterday, but found that the camera was dead. Unlike this camera that opens and turns on and shuts off when you close the door, the camera I'm using currently, you must push a button to turn it on and push a button to turn it off. Apparently I did not do that and the battery ran down. So I had to recharge this. This has been chemically stripped, and these are still remnants of where damage and dents were where they've been filled. And this will have to be sanded down or worked on more to get it off. That apparently is pretty deep right there, fairly deep along that side. Remember, multiple coats of paint and some Bondo have been removed from here already. The front here, this corner is not so bad. The problem with these are they're right where there are reinforcements. It's difficult to get in. You can get in through sometimes places like this, or try to sneak between it inside with a tool and try to pull it out. We'll mess with that, but we've got to get this old stuff off. You can see it's even blistered. But he has worked on the underside as well. This is the bottom of the deck lid. You can see he's cleaned this off very well. This is the used deck lid that we had in stock. Actually very nice. I don't see any major dings I see some areas where he's sanded here. And looks like he metal finished that, so it might have been a small dent there. But that's nicely stripped, and it's in really good shape. So I already showed the back and the finish of the car. So we will continue to clean up this hood, try and get the dings pushed out, hammered out, whatever we can to get at. So there's very little filler needed to finish the contour of this hood. Yeah. We have to wait a month for some more parts to come in for Greg's car. You want to tape off the power steering pump hole.
I'll blow it out. It will just blow the tape off into the grease.
So you're gonna drain it anyway, right? We're gonna clean this up as best we can. Probably pull a valve cover, readjust valves, inspect things like that. Maybe put new valve seals in it. We're talking about, we need to check his timing chain while it's apart. We don't know condition of his timing chain. So there's things like that we've got to check. We'll pull these off and have them yellow cadmium. They'll clean up the valve cover. Send the transmission out and get it resealed, inspected. He said the engine ran decent, but we don't want any oil leaks. I don't know how many miles are on it without looking at the odometer, but valve seals, timing chain, things like that probably should be freshened up, because it would be a future problem for him. It'd be a shame on a car that's going to look new. So that's the kind of thing we're going to be doing while we're waiting for these parts to come in. So he's got a box of stuff down for his car, and they're going to concentrate on this for a while, and then other things, like I said, gauges and stuff like that, to make sure they're nice and clean. And so we'll get some shots as we progress, but he's already blasted this a little bit out here already. Looks quite clean. Is that a solvent to grease remover or whatever?
Yeah.
He'll put that on there and let it set for a while, and then nail it again. Yeah, I see the top of the power steering pump reservoir looks grimy yet.
Right. Well, the first time it was just so bad. Should get down into it now.
Yeah. So we'll get shots later, let him clean this up. We'll start pulling things off it, and like I said, inspect the timing chain. And I'm assuming the oil's drained already. If not, we'll drain the oil, probably pull the oil pan, put this thing on a stand. Transmission's got to come off it. Put it on a stand and then do some inspection. We got to make good use of our time while we're waiting for these parts to come in. This has been pressure washed a couple times, cleaned with a solvent and so on. Some things we just noticed. We're going to start taking this apart so we can put new seals and things. Someone has cut the line to the oil cooler and jammed a bolt in it. This flows through here. Round over to here is another bolt. Another bolt jammed in it.
That's the one that goes from the head or the block into it.
Yep.
And then your out is on the other end. It goes around the front.
But the oil still was circulating through it?
Oil was still circulating through it. It just wasn't flowing.
So you're thinking that something went bad inside, maybe water was getting in the oil?
Maybe
Something
water.
happened where they've...
Well, no, you couldn't get water in the oil, otherwise you'd be losing
oil out of the thing. So the seam on this is probably bad on the cooler.
Something was leaking here, they wouldn't have bypassed
It was leaking antifreeze.
That's my guess. So that's got to come off. We have to find out what's going on there because he really needs an oil. He really needs the oil cooler.
That with the heater core and all that.
Yeah, the heater core is shot. So it's got some hoses that are bad. We'll replace anything that's weather checked or cracked really bad. We'll change those out. He's going to drop the tranny off of here. We're going to send it out and get it resealed, inspected. Same thing with the starter and the alternator. Get them checked. Now's the time to do it. They're not easy to get to once the car is back together. Being tucked up underneath of here. So we'll pull it off. Came out pretty clean after 2 or 3 blasts of the pressure washer, huh? It was pretty oily, which is a good thing to reseal it because where it leaked before, it's going to leak again. So we'll put a new valve cover gasket on it too. Okay. Start pulling her down, and we'll get things cleaned up. The engine should look a little different today. Actually, it's quite a good thing that we... Can you stand this up? I don't want to try it with just one hand.
It's all oil.
It's a good thing we decided to pull the transmission because looks like it's the rear main seal, doesn't it? Well, we'll look into this, but if it needs a rear main, there's a 2-part seal, correct? Upper and lower. The only way to get to the upper is to pull the crank either completely out or out enough to reach underneath of it. So it's probably something we're going to have to do because we can't leave that leaking, obviously. In order to get at a variety of things on the motor and reseal it, put new gaskets on, all this has to come off. Where?
Thermostat housing.
Oh, that hollow bolt?
Yeah. Side cover bolt for the...
So 2 bolts snapped.
Right there.
Okay, so we got to warm that area up. And might be able to warm that up and grab it with vice grips and peel it out.
But I'm going to take these out. Normally I don't. But this one's so rusted that thermostat housing didn't want to come off of there. And if I put it back on with it like that, it's going to corrode up quick.
The plating's all gone off it.
Yeah, and if they ever have to take that thermostat housing off or anything, it'll be just about impossible to get off.
Yeah.
I think
I'll talk to the...
out and have them plated.
I'll talk to the customer. I'll talk to him. It might not be a bad idea. Do you remember how many miles are on the speedometer? Because I don't remember. Huh? It might not be a bad idea to send his injectors out and the fuel injection pump and just have them tested. Have the injectors cleaned. Well, I'll talk to him. It's an added cost. I don't know if he wants to mess with it.
If he wants to do that, then I'll take it off. Otherwise, I'm leaving it down.
Yeah, if you can, I'll talk to him first. I do want to inspect. You haven't pulled the cover yet? All right, I want to inspect the timing chain and the gears for wear, and because I have no clue whether this has ever had a timing chain put on it or not.
razors.
No, the gears are pointed. Even the one down inside here is sharp. I can't get a good. There's not enough light.
Can't get a good shot of the.
I can get a shot of that one. The one down inside, I can't. The tips. Have you got from anybody else's engine? Have you got a good gear out here? Oh, he's looking for one. And his has the valve cover on it already. I'll grab one out of stock. The point here of the gear, the tip of the gear, should be about 3/32 or so, almost 1/8 of an inch of flat on the top of the tooth. And these are almost as sharp as a Chinese throwing star. So definitely. Injection pump looks good. Now that he's got it all blasted and cleaned up.
Is I'm not taking that out unless we have another one, because this one might break getting it out.
What is that?
That's the water line
Is
that
that
goes.
the drain plug, or is that the water line
it's
that
the
goes
water
to
line
the?
that goes to the cooler for the oil.
Oh, it's hollow as well.
Yeah.
So we'll probably flush this block out. I was noticing some sludge,
It's not too bad. Really.
but I mean, once it's apart, having pressure wash inside.
Wow. I don't know about that.
It really, I would
I'll
just
rinse it
assume.
out.
I would rinse it out with water at least.
I'm not gonna pressure wash.
Yeah, no, it's not that bad.
You got everything else.
It's just got some little bit of debris. It's not. See, it's got the kind of sludge that ends up in your radiator, kind of a thing. But if we flush that all out, we'll, because it's kind of muddy and gritty. It's weird how antifreeze can turn to grit. It's almost like sand.
Yeah.
Isn't that something? Water soluble stuff turns to like a gritty sand. All right, so I'll talk to him, but we're going to end up having to change
Must have got moisture in
this gear, this gear, this gear, and
this cam tower's all rusty.
I just wonder if the car sat a bit.
Well, it had to. There's no other way to get
This
that.
cam tower,
Oil's flying through the top of that motor so fast.
this cam tower is all corroded. It's weird. It's just that cam
I
tower.
know.
Is that where the vent is, possibly on the back of the valve cover?
No.
The little
Vents, actually.
the little line. Look at that stuff.
It's almost like mud.
It's like it's like when I pinch it with that little bit of water I had on my fingers, it turns to a black sludge. How does the camshaft shows
Junk.
shows some nasty stuff on it.
That lobe's worn right now, and that lobe's worn right now.
Wow. You got a micrometer? This cam does not look good at all. A lot of pits in it too, Rob. All right, this is the same. Just a minute here. This lobe and this lobe. They should be. I'm trying to remember. They may not all be the same size, intakes and exhaust. I don't remember if they're the same distance. But see what you can measure
I
here.
don't know if I can get on that one. Can't get on any of them with this
You
tube.
can't get around it with that tube in the way.
This one's worn right now. That one's got grooves in it.
That one's shot too.
That one's got grooves in it. That one's got grooves in it.
Not just grooves. It looks like it's been welded.
It's-
It's all pitted.
they're just grooves.
Look at these. Look at these.
They were
Look at the pits.
Yeah, they were pretty rusty.
I wonder if the car sat a while and he fired it up and the rust that was on him just carved him to pieces. The rocker arms.
A lot of you said it ran okay.
The rocker arms are going to show some similar too.
Yeah.
Well, pull the camshaft. Let's inspect the rocker. We know it needs a chain, and we know it needs gears. And I can tell you right now, it's going to need a camshaft. You can't put. You can cut yourself on the edges of this camshaft.
If you're gonna do the top end, you might as well do the bottom end.
Yeah.
Otherwise, bottom end's gonna go. You know.
We're going to have to take the crank loose in order to get the rear main seal put in.
Right.
Let's inspect the gear. Let's inspect the bearings.
Well,
This isn't a good sign here.
the only other thing you're not gonna be able to do is you're not gonna be able to check the cylinder
Without pulling the head.
without pulling it.
Yeah. This is not a good sign. I'll get some video off to him and let him decide.
Yeah. Get some prices of it.
Because this camshaft is shot. If you were to lay a straight edge across this cam lobe, the two outside edges are probably 7 to 10 thousandths taller than the middle. That's
Oh yeah.
you don't see that very
This
often.
motor clattered pretty good.
You're going to pull this rod, this tube.
Wow.
Can't get in there very easy with that. I'll stop recording for a moment and let's pull that tube, pull the camshaft. Have to at least pull the front gear off in order to change it. So let's do that. I'll get the video off to him right away and we'll talk to him next week and we'll see what he wants to do. Yeah, he told me it mechanically drove okay. Should have been noisy
It
though.
must have been noisy.
It should have been
There's
noisy.
no way that this thing was quiet and smooth running.
You don't have hardly any cam lobes that are worth the toot. And I'm curious as to what those rocker arms look like. They're going to be beat up. If the cam looks that bad, the rockers look that bad. That's not a good sign. Okay, well, got it apart. Did you happen to inspect the clutch and pressure plate? They're probably all covered with oil, aren't they?
You can see the fingers on that clutch are shot.
These things are worn halfway through. What a groove in them.
Pressure plate is about half gone, maybe more than half gone.
Oh, I don't have it out yet. Oh, you didn't.
I took it apart. I just stuck the screws back in.
I'm going to pull them so I can show the customer. He's going to need. You don't go this far with that much wear.
Well, I put a new pressure plate, clutch disc,
Yep, and a throwout bearing.
put a throwout bearing and a pilot bearing in the back of the motor because this looks like it was wearing.
When we do three-way calls, it's usually like, hey, you know, it's kind of like surprise. Why are you?
Well, yeah. You don't go this far. What is it? A $12 bushing that goes in the back of the bearing? You don't go this far without changing that. That's for sure. Well, the pressure plate, I'll look it up and I'll give them an idea of what it's going to be. But when I see this much wear in a pressure plate, guarantee you the clutch disc has to have some oil on it with all that oil in that bell housing. You think it's flinging around it and not on it?
Yeah, it's because of the design of the flywheels.
Well, the leak is way in front, so no, this has been slipping some. Look at that.
Well, yeah.
It's black, like it's burned.
Well, that's because they were riding the clutch.
Or that oil made it slip some.
No, it's because they were riding the clutch. That's why
because the drive with 2 feet with 1 foot on the clutch pedal a little bit.
Yeah. That's why the fingers are worn down so far.
The fingers are almost worn in half. Okay, there's oil sludge residue on the rivets here. So there's been some oil residue on this clutch disc. You can see it in here, black sludge.
The other thing is when we took this motor out of the car,
Uh-huh.
I didn't even think about it, but I just noticed the brackets right here. You got a bracket right here, the little shock that goes on the front of the motor. He doesn't have it.
He's missing that little shock absorber that.
Goes on the front of the motor.
Is he missing the bracket or the mount as well?
It's right here.
But he didn't have that little
He
piston
didn't have
unit.
the little shock, no.
Okay.
I didn't realize it when I pulled the motor out.
Yeah, there's a lot of clutch dust. When you get this much, it's been slipping. He's probably been riding the clutch like he said. So,
It's the only way you can wear them fingers out like that.
but I can, the flywheel itself,
Flywheel's got to be resurfaced.
we can resurface that flywheel and clean that all up.
You got to mic it.
Yeah, well, we can take some off the top, we can take some off. What you take off of here, you have to take off of here.
Still has to be so.
But we have to measure it and see how thick it is to make sure that it hasn't been
Otherwise,
machined before.
have, enough pressure.
But it's going to need pressure plate. Somebody's been riding the clutch because these are only about half as thick as they're supposed to be, and that means that bearing's been spinning on there a lot. All right, I'm going to put the bolts back in the holes. You want me just to throw it back together like you had it, so everything's together?
I don't really care.
Yeah.
Go out anyway.
It's no, the pieces are no good, so.
And we can throw all the bolts and stuff this way.
You want me to just toss the bolts in your cup over there?
Yeah, might as well.
Because this has to go across the street and get machined anyway. All right. Right here. There's our bolts. So, I'll give them a couple more hours and we'll come back. Are you almost got the oil pan off? I want to see how much sludge is in it. That bottom cover, I mean. Yeah. That'll give me an idea what I'm dealing with as far as. Alright. He's going to flip this in a bit. And we'll get some shots of some other areas. Engine's been worked on because there's tubes that lay here and there's little spacer sleeves under them to shim them away. One of them had a spacer and the other just had this nut jammed underneath of it instead of a spacer that looks like that. So at one time someone lost the other spacer and shoved this nut. So that nut really doesn't go to the motor, it's just a spacer. So we got all the bolts out of the oil pan bottom cover. Hang on tight.
It's not all that bad. It's not as bad as I thought it was going to be.
You thought it was going to be worse than this?
Yeah.
Okay, but this is a
It's
lot.
a lot of sludge, but
That's a lot of sludge. But if they were changing the oil frequently with some decent stuff, it should be a lot cleaner than that.
well, let's clean it out.
That's not a good sign. That kind of garbage is going around through the motor.
Got play in the piston. Not bad. There's wear in it.
While I got the camera on, can you get to these? Or is this in the way?
Kind of in the way.
Definitely needs to be all flushed and cleaned out because it's full of sludge everywhere. Oh, it's dripping oil all over my foot. Oh, the fuel injection pump has oil in it. We didn't drain it. So, that's okay. My shoes are well lubricated now.
Yeah, I think I'll take a paper towel or something and wipe that out.
Yeah, we'll have to. Well, I can take it over to
I
the
don't
dip.
want to dip it with all that
Let's wipe that out before we put it in the dip tank because it'll screw up the dip tank. Let me pop this. These are also holding the cover on.
Well, they're holding the top of the pump, yeah.
Let me pull these three, and then I want to pull one main bearing cap. I'm just going to put this on standby.
Right. That's
This is a rod bearing cap. I'll pull a rod and one main. I want to look at them, show the customer so he can decide what he wants to do. Because I have no clue what they're going to look like. All right, we got the oil pump pickup tube. Doggone, I'm standing in that darn oil again, dripping.
It's going to leak for a while.
Yeah, I know. It has I think it has almost a half a quart of oil in the injection pump. That came out really clean. All right, this is a main bearing, right?
Yep. That looks pretty good.
It's not bad. Got some scratches.
It's not new, but it's not.
No, we got some scratches. What we'll do is we'll go ahead and pop that back on there. Let me check the crank. The bearing would be the worst because the crank's a lot harder.
Yeah.
So
Bearing looks good.
crank's fine. Okay, throw that back on. What we'll do is we'll just put that back in and just snug it. We'll check them all, but we'll plastic gauge them and check for the wear. But I would say that they look pretty nice. So he may not need the bottom. He may not need the bottom end after all. But let's pop the rod bearing cap, which is a different size. Isn't it a 17? It looks like a 17. Well, they got some weird size now?
16.
It's a 16? Is a 15 close to 11/16, or is that a 17? This is a 16. 16 goes on. Your socket was just too wide. This will do it. It's a little sloppy. 15. Darn, they're spinning the motor around on the deal here. That was a tight rod bearing.
That was way tight. It's supposed to have, what, 27 foot-pounds. That was like
I don't remember.
65
I don't
or
remember what it was
70,
on
20.
these. I haven't done one of these motors. I've done a lot of 190 motors. And you want to make sure that you drop the nuts down inside the engine so that they stick in there, right?
Let it drop down.
Yeah, you'd be able to flip it back over and get them out.
Just grab them with a magnet. Pop it right loose.
It's not coming off easy. You might have to just tap the bolts a little bit. You can see it from this side over here, I think. You might be able to get underneath of it. You got that? We got to spin the motor a little bit to knock this. You got that screwdriver? There's a crack right here we might be able to get underneath of. I see it wiggling. It's just going to be stubborn all the way out, isn't it?
They usually are.
There we go.
It's got some wear in it. A couple little grooves.
It's definitely got scratch grooves down the middle, doesn't it? It's had debris in the oil in between the bearing and the crank. Check the crankshaft. I need to stand in this oil just a little bit more because my shoe isn't quite soaked down enough yet. I think I'm going to the other side of the engine. This is better. Rob, there's a groove in the crank.
Yeah, right where that bearing is.
Take your fingernail and go this
Yeah,
way.
right where that groove is.
Yeah.
Bearing.
There's a groove in the crank,
Yeah, underneath
but that should polish out, I think, if they take a really fine and we polish it. I don't think it'll have to be turned, but
Oh, that's just the front too.
huh?
That's just the front too.
Yeah, we don't know what the rest of it looks like. So let's do this. Because we have to change the timing chain and the gears.
We don't have to. That's up to him.
Yeah, I don't want to put this back together with that. You know how worn that is.
I know.
Let me talk to him before we go any farther. And we'll get this. It takes the rest of the day to get the videos all. We got to convert the videos and be able to send them to him in a form he can read and that kind of stuff. So let me get that off to him. Start at this point. Start separating. Oh, there's a number on it to turn it the right way, right? At this point, continue separating the things that we need to cadmium plate you know, some of these tubes you pulled off of here, are they black or were they cadmium at one time?
Done it part before.
The engine has been?
Somebody etched a number here and a number stamped on the other side.
So the engine's been, if they took it apart, why didn't they change the timing chain? Because that chain is shot.
Probably just threw bearings on it.
So someone's engraved a number on one edge and
Yeah.
it's factory etched on the other?
Yeah, it's like stamped right into it on the other side.
Well, we know something's been apart because somebody stuck a nut instead of a spacer over there. So this assembly's been apart at one time.
Yeah, the whole bottom end is apart.
All right.
They don't engrave, you know, they don't etch one side and engrave, stamp the other.
No, the rod is engraved or etched, and the bearing will be a 1, 1, 2, 2, whatever, all the way back.
Right.
And that bearing cap has to be spun to match it.
Stamped right in it.
Okay. Well, it's barely dripping anymore, but it still is a little. We'll let him decide. Separate the stuff that you want to get CAD plated, and I will get it down there to the right people, and then we'll keep on rolling. I'll see if we have a gasket and seal set for this, and then in case he wants them, you want me to get a set of bearings, the main bearings that go bad in these, so that Gary has a set of bearings. If he doesn't like the old ones, he'll put them in. If not, he'll leave them in there, right? All have them, some synchronizers, because the brass synchros go bad. So make sure he has bearings and synchros, and he'll use them if he needs them. All right. We'll check that. We'll check the flex joint, and we'll check the rear mount. Usually, if the rear mount ever got any oil on it, it's toast. So we'll check that before we put it back in. All right. I'll stop and get this video off to the customer. Anything else I can video while I got the camera here? Because I'm gonna. Huh?
Well, I can leave that off for now, I guess.
You want to, let's drop the washers on.
Well, I'm going to do that. I'm going to put this back on. But I don't want to do it because these aren't tight. That'll remind me that those
All right.
are tight.
We'll just leave it. Are these off of his car? These are being sandblasted because they're dirty and oily and scummy, and when we get done, these manifolds will look new. You plan on painting the manifolds, right? Painting them silver? He's got some silver high temperature coating he puts on the manifolds. He said it's a ceramic coating that goes on them. Seals them up, makes them look new, and it handles really high temperatures. These are some seats we just got back for a 190 SL. The bottom chrome pieces there were really nasty, and I had to have them replated. We're redoing the frames, and everything you see there is pretty much shot. So they're continuing sandblasting different bits and pieces from your car and off the motor. I'll get the flywheel off across the street and get it machined. Probably showed you this before, but Here's your body panels completely stripped. This is a different deck lid. Yours was all bent and warped. This is your aluminum cover. Both sides have been cleaned. We got a few other areas here we can sand a little bit, but these are moldings off that cover. We're going to see if they will polish up. If not, I'm a little skeptical. I see some scratches. If not, they're going to have to go out for plating as well. So, got a few things to discuss regarding that. All right.